Good morning, ma'am. Today I am going to talk about experiment 7 in system development lab, that is a component diagram and deployment diagram. So the main aim of this experiment is to construct a component and deployment diagram for ATM system. A component diagram, also known as UML component diagram, it describes the organization and writing of the physical components in a system. Component diagrams are often drawn to help model implementation details and double check that every aspect of the system's required function is covered by planned development. So coming to components included in these diagrams were physical like documents, database tables, files and executable files, all physical elements with a location. So basic component diagram symbols and notations are like this. So first is component. A component is a logical unit of the system, a slightly higher abstraction than classes. So it is represented as a rectangle with a smaller rectangle in the upper right corner with tabs or the word written above the name of the component to help distinguish in form of class. So this is the component. So we will use interfaces. An interface describes a group of operations and are created by components. A full circle represents an interface created or provided by the computer. A semicircle represents a required interface like a person's input. So the diagram will be in this way. So these are the required interfaces and these are the components and dependencies. Draw dependencies among components using dashed arrows. So we use dashed arrows. So port are represented using a square along the edge of the system or component. A port is often used to help expose required and provided interfaces of a component. So these are some of the notations and representations. So this is the component diagram for ATM deposit, simple ATM. So first we draw for cash dispensaries and card validator, and after validating a card, these all are performed in a ATM mission. So after validating ATM network, card reader, all this comes into the picture. First, what happens in ATM? We enter a card. That card reader will read all the details of the card and card. If it is valid, then ATM network everything is good and it will perform the ATM deposit actions. So coming to deployment diagram are made up of several UML diagrams. Diagrams mean shapes. The three-dimensional boxes known as nodes represent the basic software or hardware elements or nodes in the system. Lines from node to node indicate relationship and the smaller shapes contained within boxes represents the software artifacts that are deployed. So deployment diagrams also contain some symbols and notations. And first is node. A node, two types of nodes in a deployment diagram. First is device node and execution environment nodes. Device nodes are that is device nodes are computing resources with processing capabilities and the ability to execute programs. Some examples of device nodes includes PCs, laptops and mobile phones. So execution environment nodes includes any computer systems that resides within a device node. So this is the database representation that represent any data stored by the deployed system. In some instances, you will see a database represented as just another node, but sometimes you will see this shape of a database. So other shapes is like communication path, a straight line that represents communication between two device nodes. So artifacts, a box with a header, artifact and the name of the file. So package, a file shaped box that groups together all the device nodes to encapsulate the entire deployment. So one is the main in deployment, that is a component, an entity required to execute a stereotype function. Take a look at this guide for UML component notation. So associations will be there. At the conceptual level, they are just the abstract association. At the specification level, they simply responsibilities to change one another. So at the implementation level, they imply pointers for navigation. So they represent a permanent relation using some arbitrary 0 to 1 that indicate it may come and go. So deployment diagram for ATM deposit. So these are the nodes. Nodes are of two types, right? One is a simple node and another is a execution environment node. And this is comes under ATM machine. So this ATM machine contains customer console that reads a card, and it will go to bank database and complete the transaction, and it will return and give a receipt. So that web page should go to bank database if it is a web application, and the client desktop will should show whatever happening in the database. Like if it is processing, it should say. If it is get retrieving data from bank database, it should say like a transaction is processing, like that. So this is the sum of the information about component and deployment diagram in ATM deposit. Thank you, ma'am.